On the next section, I'm going to teach you these different items that you can use this formula for. Number 1, you can use it to solve for the roots, like we did in example 1. You can use it to find specific answers, kind of like we did in problem 2, in word problems and using decimals. Or you can use it, which is what we're going to talk about in the following, to get a nice looking picture of our graph. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the quadratic formula, or part of it, to get a picture of what the graph might look like. You only need the stuff, for this section of the notes, you only need the stuff inside the square root. So that stuff inside the square root is called the discriminant. Go ahead and copy it down. Now the discriminant is simply the stuff inside, therefore the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Notice I don't even include the square root. What this is going to tell you is if it has 0, 1, or 2 real solutions. Remember, the number of solutions tells you how many times the parabola crosses the x-axis. Now let's go to the bottom, and let's make sure you understand that it could be a positive number, you could get out a 0, or you could get out a negative. This chart is very helpful. Let's say that you get the discriminant and it's greater than 0, meaning it's a positive number. If it is a positive number, it has 2 real solutions. Therefore, it will cross twice. Let's put that here. Crosses twice. Okay. Now that could be any positive number. In this example, you got out an 8. Let's say you got it up 156. Okay, well that's positive. It would still have 2 real solutions. Now let's say you do the stuff inside and you get out a 0. Well, 0 is neither positive nor negative. That means it crosses once, and I'm hoping as you eye this up you realize that it will always cross with the vertex. Let's write that down. Crosses once. That means there is 1 real solution. Remember, this could open up upside down. But let's say that you get b squared minus 4ac to be less than 0. In other words, it's negative. Well, if that happens, it will never cross. Okay, that means there are no real solutions. And that could open up upside down below the x-axis, but it will never cross the x-axis if you get something that is negative. Let's apply that on problem 4. How many real number solutions? Now you see how it says how many real number solutions? That right there, that is your clue to use the discriminant. They're not asking you to solve, they're just saying how many real solutions are there. So the first thing we're going to do, just like always, is we've got to set it equal to 0, okay? So we'll do 2x squared minus 3x plus 5 equals 0. You have to take that 5 over if you want this to work. So we do b squared, okay, here's a, b, and c. B squared is 9 minus 4 times a, 2, times c, 5. That's 9 minus 40. What is 9 minus 40? That equals negative 31. So what does that tell you? First of all, you get a negative answer. What does that mean? It has no real solutions. Now let's see what that looks like on a graphing calculator. How can something have no real solutions? How could it never cross? Well, let's plug it in. I'm going to plug in this one right here. 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. Look at this graph. As it graphs, you can see that it never crosses your x-axis. That's why there are no real solutions. Let's try it one more time and got it 4a. How many real solutions? Well, let's set it equal to 0, okay? 6x squared minus 5x minus 7 equals 0. So what we have to do is we have to do b squared. Here's a, here's b, here's c. B squared is negative 5 squared makes 25, minus 4 times a, which is 6, times c, which is negative 7. That's 25 plus 4 times 6 times 7 is 168. That's going to make a total of 193. And because you get a positive answer, that's all we're concerned about, is that the fact that it's positive, that means it's going to have two real solutions. You want to see it? Graph it and prove it. Graph the part that you said equal to 0. So 6x squared minus 5x minus 7. Ready to watch it graph? It crosses 1, 2 times. Here and here. Now if I asked you to solve it, you'd have to go for the whole quadratic formula to do so. Part B. If A is positive and C is negative, how many real number solutions would this have? Well, let's think this through. Part B. Okay? So we know we would have to do b squared minus 4 times a times c. They're saying if a is positive, so that would be 4 times the positive, and c is negative. Well, what would b squared be all of the time? I hope you know squareds are always positive. So the question is, really, what do these three things make? What's a negative times a positive times a negative? Isn't that just a positive? So they're asking how many real number solutions would that equation have? It would always have 2, because the discriminant would always be positive. And that's because of a negative times a negative being a positive. Do you have any questions about this? Why don't you go through it, and then if you want to do some of these, that way you can ask when you come to class. You can check out the lesson check. If you're able to do all of these items down here, you should be fine.